All right, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Now, let's move on to the next discussion. The crisis rocking the All Progressives Congress in Taraba State has continued to fester following the emergence of Senator Emmanuel Bocha as the winner of the governorship primary elections in the state. Now, but a group of aggrieved aspirants on the platform of the All Progressives Congress in Taraba State on Sunday alleged that the primary election committee for Taraba State was nowhere to be found, and so no primaries were conducted in the state. Now, let's get perspectives, on this particular issue, as we have a lawyer and a political analyst, Pius Damba, in the studio. He's also an indigene of Taraba State. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Daybreak.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so can you just tell us generally, what your take is on, the whole wrangling, in the APC in Taraba State?
Well, you see, party politics is one of the things that is going to make or mar our democracy, because internal democracy in political parties is very germane in determining how we recruit the leaders that we are going to have in the country and in the state. Now, of course, the political parties have been given the power to determine the mode of selecting or nominating their candidates. But one crucial aspect of the Electoral Act is that such process that they will adopt has to be democratic, giving room for all aspirants to participate in the process freely, without giving undue advantage to any other. And it's not a peculiar problem of the All Progressive Congress. I see it as a problem that we have with virtually all the political parties in Nigeria. That provision for true democracy at the level of the political parties when selecting their candidates is mostly missing in the processes we have seen so far. So political parties don't create level playing ground for their members or for aspirants within their party to be able to, compete fairly and allow the process to be determined, by the actual voters or delegates. So you see people, resorting to all manner of unlawful means to ensure that they just emerge at all costs without complying with their own guidelines, their own rules, or even the constitution of those political parties. And so that is why you see there is a lot of agitations, or there are a lot of complaints from people, because when you don't operate according to your own rules, then certainly your own people will start shouting and will start complaining. And that is what you are seeing from Taraba State.
I would like us to, as much as possible, unmax the conversation. I'm happy that we have a candidate, a guest in the studio that fits three cap. He's a political analyst, he's a lawyer, and as well as a citizen of Taraba State. Can you take our viewers through, other than speaking professionally now,
yes,
what the real issues are in Taraba?
Well, the real issues are that most of the other aspirants or governorship aspirants on the platform of All Progressive Congress, they are not happy with the process because their position is that there was no election in Taraba State. There was no APC primary election in Taraba State. And they have maintained that position because they felt that they were on ground, in Taraba State for the election. They waited for the committee that was set up to conduct the election. The committee came, and of course there were issues about the election materials that were supposed to be distributed, and they demanded to have copies to be shown. Of course, the procedure is that when you are going to conduct an election, you are going to assemble all the stakeholders, including the aspirants, their agents, before the commencement of the election, and show them the materials brought in for the purpose of that election. And those materials will be confirmed to be genuine and distributed, in the presence of everyone, including security agencies, media men, of course, and other accredited observers. So the problem started in that process of distribution of materials, because it was now discovered that sensitive materials were missing. And of course, if sensitive materials are missing, then you will not expect that the process is going to be credible or free and fair. And they've been on it, and unfortunately, while they are at it, they now discovered that subsequently the result of the election was declared. So the controversy is if aspirants are still contending about verifying that election materials have been properly deployed or not, how then do you go on to now declare results for the election?
So the question then would be, what is the likely consequence? Is this appears like a precedent? We have seen this precedent in other states before.
Yes.
What, as a lawyer, what do you think would be the consequence for a process like this that seemed to have thrown up a candidate to the detriment of others?
I think that our politicians must have gotten the message from the judiciary that indeed the judiciary is ready, willing, and able to enforce or to ensure that the laws of the land are complied with. And irrespective of your status or your position, you cannot bend the will of the law. And we have seen it in so many instances where the judiciary came heavily on politicians who try to flout the rules or try to break the rules in ensuring they emerge at all costs. And I see that if there is a challenge to this process, of course, our judiciary will not shy away from doing the needful, because while our laws are clear on the processes that are supposed to be followed in the conduct of primary elections, if they are flouted, the only logical conclusion is that the judiciary will do the needful.
Looking at what transpired in Taraba State, two questions now in one.
Yes.
You, in your introductory statements, you made us understand that certain stakeholders needed to be present for this process to be adjudged credible and fair.
Yes.
One of them is the security agency. In
Yes.
the face of that kind of irregularity,
Yes.
did the security agency have a mandate
Yes.
to have truncated or stopped that process from continuing? That is one part of my question.
Yes.
The second part is, what is the consequence beyond even the precedent laid by the judiciary for stamping his feet? Does this not have a bigger consequences of causing disaffection or breakdown of law and order, especially if one of the persons who may have been disenfranchised, if you like, from the process, may have a following that is capable of igniting a crisis, because for them, they feel that the system has been skewed to rob them ab initio?
Yes, indeed. I would say that you're correct in the sense that now, on the first aspect, the security agencies, their role stopped at witnessing or observing the process and ensuring that there is no breakdown of law and order. So they are merely to provide security to the process and ensure that everyone is protected. Because they are not members of the party, they have no business intervening to say you must comply with your own law or not, as the case may be. So they are just to witness, to provide security and ensure that everything goes on smoothly. Where parties decide to, breach their own internal rules, it is left for members of that political party to contest the process in the court of law. And on the second aspect, of course, justice and fairness is related to having peace in the society. When there is absence of justice and fairness, then certainly you are going to see crisis emanating from all angles. Because when people feel that they are not fairly treated, justice is not met, they are unduly treated, they are not given equal opportunity, they are being suppressed, certainly they will begin to shout. and that is what we have been seeing. So I feel that if our political parties want to maintain peace, want to maintain harmony, want to carry along their members, then they should operate fairly and give equal opportunity to every member of the political party, irrespective of his position or status.
Okay, now the election committee has actually said that one of its members, was actually shot, and it said aside from the shooting that, it had actually confronted several other issues which must be sorted out before the election would be conducted. Now, what does that mean for the APC in Taraba State?
Well, you see, it's quite unfortunate that we have witnessed what has transpired. And I think that our security agencies have the capacity to actually investigate what transpired, and where people have committed one or two criminal offenses, those persons should be fished out and prosecuted in accordance with the law. Now, of course, we don't forget the fact that the Electoral Act 2022 has made enormous provisions on electoral offenses. Trying to using violence in election, is an election offense that can be prosecuted by any of the security agencies, and even INEC has now been given power to carry out prosecution. And I think that our politicians must also be minded on these new provisions of the Electoral Act, because there are several offenses you can run foul of, and you can be liable for prosecution by the INEC or other security agencies. So I feel that that can be done.
Talking about several prosecutions and the provisions of the new Electoral Act, in your opinion as a lawyer, do you think the punishment is far-reaching enough to warrant a deterrent? Because talking from precedents, whenever people perpetrate this thing, the worst we have seen is that the court, they've lost the positions, and that's all. We have not seen a judgment that has compelled people who have manipulated their way to power to pay all of the salaries and benefits that they have enjoyed in that office prior to being thrown away, to even be sentenced to a jail term for manipulating the systems and ending up somehow, getting power through the back door. Do you think we can do something, we can raise the stake such that people understand that it is one thing to beat the system, beat the process, and get into power and frustrate justice, but at the tail end of it, when it catches up with you, the consequences are far much more, as to deter people who are thinking in that direction?
Well, deterrence is one of the goals of punishment or the criminal justice system. And of course, that is left for the legislature or the National Assembly.
As major beneficiaries of that process, do you think they would give us?
Yes, it's left for them to prescribe what they think is adequate in the law. But my own opinion is that what has been prescribed so far is enough to deter further persons from committing sin, in that the courts have been empowered to actually make such orders for refund of unlawful salaries and allowances that you must have collected. And I think there are one or two cases where we have even seen the Supreme Court sacking some legislatures and making specific orders that the salaries and allowances they've collected should be refunded. And the only thing I would want to add, what I want to see happen in law, probably to help in ensuring compliance with things like this, is that maybe in the future we can have it enacted that the person who ought to have benefited from that seat should be the one to recover such funds. In that case, you hardly see somebody going scot-free by, appropriating funds from that office illegally, by stealing the ballot, and then going scot-free, because institutional enforcement, maybe by the relevant institutions, may not be as effective as when you confer it on an individual. where it is an individual that knows these are salaries I was supposed to collect, somebody have taken it, I am entitled to now have it, I can assure you that virtually no one will allow another person to take his salaries and go away with it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Now, with all the crisis rocking the APC in Taraba State, do you think other parties, especially the opposition parties, actually taking advantage of the situation? And if they do not, settle, what does that mean for the APC in Taraba State?
Well, in Taraba State, APC is the opposition party, whereas PDP is the party in government. And of course, PDP has added advantage of being the party in government. They appear to be much more organized in terms of the conduct of their primary elections. The elections are not without their own rancor and some irregularities, but at least their own seems to have been done much more fairly, than as compared to the APC. And I think that that is a big challenge on the APC, that is an opposition party in the state, because they are supposed to offer a kind of a better, credible alternative to the PDP in Taraba State. And not being able to do that, even at the level of primaries, leaves so much to desire about.
It's amazing what people want to profit from a system, a process that in itself it's riddled with irregularities. You want to come out and be sure that you are the popular candidate, you are the people's choice. And so when you proceed to the real battle, you have that understanding that there's a real force behind your candidature, not a process that sort of confers or coerces you on the members of the process. We have been talking to Pius Dempa, a political analyst, a lawyer, and an indigene of Taraba State, who have provided us perspective from these three different caps that he wears, but whether as an analyst, a lawyer, or a citizen, on the crisis rocking the All Progressive Congress in Taraba State with regards to the just concluded primaries that had ushered in, if you like, a governorship candidate, gubernatorial candidate. We look forward to how this crisis unfolds and how this is eventually settled among other contending members of the party. We thank you for finding time to be with us in the studio today. This is where we will draw the curtain on this conversation with you. Do have a nice day. We will take a short breather. When we return, the program continues. Thank you for joining us. If you had stayed with us all morning, it's been the morning show on Daybreak Trust Television. We have served you very compelling and interesting stories this morning, and analyst perspective on issues that borders on our national polity. If you're just joining us and you have missed out on any important part, please do well to visit our social media handles on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, to catch up on YouTube, to catch up on all the interesting developments today, and find time to remain with us for all the other interesting programs that we would serve you on this station as the day continues to unfold. It's been a pleasure riding with you this morning. I am Sunday Michael Ogu.
And I'm Dashan Hussein Ausman. Thank you so much for watching.